Ryan had always dreamed of exploring the stars. As a young boy on Earth, he had spent hours staring at the night sky, imagining strange worlds and distant civilizations. Now, as a human explorer representing Earth, he was about to land on Zythera, a planet that few humans had ever visited. The mission was simple on paper. Establish diplomatic relations with the alien monarchy and report back to Earth, but nothing in Ryan's training had prepared him for what awaited him. The spaceship descended slowly through Zythera's atmosphere. The sky shimmered with green and purple hues, and the clouds moved like flowing rivers of light. Ryan pressed his hands against the small window, marveling at the beauty of the planet. The landing zone was a wide plateau surrounded by towering crystal-like structures that seemed to hum with energy. When the landing gears touched the ground, a group of alien figures awaited him. They were tall and elegant, with skin that glimmered like polished stone and eyes that reflected light in a way that was almost hypnotic. A figure stepped forward. She wore a robe of deep blue that flowed like water, and her eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. "Welcome, human," she said, her voice melodic and calm. "I am Princess Nira, the youngest of the Zytheran royal family. You are here to stay in our palace for your mission." Ryan swallowed hard. He had expected formal greetings and protocol, but not something so personal. The princess was looking directly at him as if she could see his thoughts. Thank you," Ryan managed to say. He tried to bow, but the gravity of Zythera was slightly lighter than Earth's, making his movements awkward. Nira's lips curved into a small smile. "You will adjust," she said. "But first there is something you must know. Your presence here is not just for diplomacy. You have been chosen to marry me." Ryan froze. He blinked, certain he had misheard. "Married? To you?" Nira nodded. "Yes. It is a tradition of our people to unite certain visitors with our royal family when it strengthens bonds between worlds. Do not worry. The decision is guided by the Council of Elders, and it is not taken lightly." Ryan's mind raced. Marry a princess he barely knew? He had trained for survival in alien environments, learned their languages and studied their history, but no manual could prepare him for this. I don't know what to say," he stammered. "You do not need to speak yet," Nira replied softly. "You will stay at the palace. There you will learn about our culture, our people, and each other. Only then will the choice feel natural." Even as he tried to comprehend the situation, Ryan felt a strange curiosity. There was something about Nira that was different from what he had imagined. She was not cold or arrogant, as the stories of alien royalty often suggested. Instead, she seemed genuinely interested in him, in humans, and in the possibility of friendship. The palace was unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. Its walls were made of a crystal-like material that reflected light in every color imaginable. The floors were smooth and cool under his feet, and the ceiling stretched so high he felt as if he were walking in a canyon made of glass. Floating platforms moved silently through the halls, carrying objects from one room to another. Humans would have called it magic, but Ryan knew it was advanced technology beyond his understanding. As they walked, Nira spoke about the palace and her people. She told him that Zytherans valued harmony with their environment, and that they had lived on this planet for thousands of years. Her words were calm, but they held a weight of knowledge and history that impressed Ryan. He realized that this marriage, if it were to happen, was more than a personal bond. "It was a bridge between two worlds. Do you like it here?" Nira asked, pausing by a window that looked out over a vast forest of glowing plants. "It's incredible," Ryan said. "I have never seen anything like this on Earth." Nira smiled. "It is our home. We cherish it deeply. But it is also a place of responsibility. Every action we take affects not just our people, but the balance of our world. You must understand that if you stay here even as a guest, your presence will matter." Ryan nodded. He felt the weight of her words. He had come here expecting a simple diplomatic mission, but it was already clear that his role would be more complex. The first few days in the palace were overwhelming. Ryan had to learn how to walk with the subtle shifts in gravity, how to use the energy fields that powered the palace, and how to communicate with servants who spoke in a mixture of gestures and telepathic signals. Nira was patient with him, guiding him through each step and answering his endless questions. At mealtime, he was introduced to Zytheran cuisine. The food glowed faintly and changed flavors depending on how it was held. Some dishes tasted sweet at first and then spicy, while others shifted from sour to savory. Ryan laughed nervously as he tried a glowing fruit that made his tongue tingle. Nira watched him with amusement. "You will get used to it," she said. "Zitherans do not eat for hunger alone. We eat for energy, for health, and for experience. You must learn to enjoy it fully." Despite the challenges, Rian felt a growing respect for Nira. She was not just a princess in title. She was thoughtful, curious, and patient. She asked about Earth, about humans, and about his experiences traveling the stars. Ryan realized that she genuinely wanted to understand him, not just as a guest, but as a person. One evening, as the two of them stood on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens, Ryan felt a strange sense of calm. The gardens were filled with plants that glowed softly under Zithira's twin moons. The air was filled with a gentle hum that seemed to come from the plants themselves. Nira leaned slightly toward him, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Ryan," she said softly, "you must know that marriage here is not the same as on Earth. It is a partnership. It is about understanding, respect, and working together. If you can accept that, then you may find that it is not a burden but a journey." Rian nodded slowly. He felt the truth in her words. He did not know what the future would bring, but he knew that this was not a simple duty. It was an opportunity to learn, to grow, and perhaps to find a connection that went beyond what he had ever imagined. The next morning, Ryan was called to the Council of Elders. The chamber was vast, filled with beings whose presence radiated authority. They spoke in unison, their voices blending into a single harmonious tone. "Rian of Earth," the eldest said, "you have been chosen to marry Princess Nira to strengthen the bonds between our worlds. You will live among us, learn our ways, and prove your willingness to respect our culture. Only then will the union be complete." Ryan bowed deeply. "I understand. I will do my best to honor your trust." The council nodded, and he was dismissed. As he left the chamber, he felt a mixture of fear and excitement. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, he felt that he was part of something larger than himself, a connection that could shape the future of both his world and Zithra. Over the next few days, Rian continued to adjust to palace life. He practiced walking in low gravity, learned to communicate with Zithran technology, and studied the culture under Nira's guidance. He discovered that the princess had a keen mind for strategy and science, and she often asked questions that challenged him to think in new ways. One afternoon, as they watched the twin suns set over the horizon, Ryan realized how much he had already learned from her. Nira's calm confidence and curiosity were inspiring. She did not demand respect because of her title. She earned it through her actions and her thoughtfulness. For the first time since arriving on Zithra, Ryan felt a sense of hope. Perhaps this marriage, which had seemed so sudden and impossible, could become something meaningful. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing clearly. His journey on Zithra had only just begun, and Nira would be at the center of it, and so, Ryan's adventure on the alien world began, not as a simple diplomatic mission, but as a journey of discovery, trust, and the possibility of a bond that could unite two worlds. Ryan had been on Zithra for several weeks, and he was beginning to feel more comfortable in the palace. The strange gravity, the glowing plants, and the alien architecture were still unusual, but he was learning to navigate them. Each day brought new lessons, and Nira continued to guide him patiently. The morning sun shimmered over the palace towers, casting a soft green light across the gardens. Ryan walked beside Nira as she led him to the training grounds. Today he was to learn more about Zithran customs and etiquette. "You will need to understand our rituals," Nira explained, her voice calm and clear. "They are not just tradition. They show respect, wisdom, and understanding. Humans may find some of them strange, but they are important." Rian nodded, trying to focus. "I want to learn. I want to understand your people," Nira smiled. "Good. Curiosity is the first step to respect." The training grounds were open and wide, with platforms floating above streams of glowing water. Other Zitherans were present, practicing their movements and gestures. Nira demonstrated a simple greeting, extending her hands with palms upward and lowering her head slightly. "Try it," she said. Rian mimicked her as best as he could. The movement felt awkward, and he almost stumbled, but Nira chuckled softly and adjusted his hands. "Better. You will improve with practice." As they moved, Ryan noticed that Nira watched him carefully. She was not just correcting his posture. She was observing how he learned, how he adapted, and how he thought. There was an intelligence in her eyes that fascinated him. He had expected royalty to be distant, but Nira was different. She was patient, encouraging, and genuinely interested in helping him succeed. After the training session, Nira led Ryan to a quiet courtyard filled with plants that glowed softly in shades of blue and purple. "This is the Garden of Knowledge," she said. "It is a place where Zytherans come to reflect, to learn, and to think about our connection to the universe. You may sit here and ask questions if you wish." Ryan sat on the smooth stone floor, feeling the gentle hum of energy from the plants beneath him. "Why do your plants glow?" he asked. "They have adapted to the light and energy of Zythera," Nira explained. "They absorb the energy of our suns and release it slowly. It keeps the ecosystem balanced. Everything here has a purpose, even beauty." Ryan marveled at the thought. On Earth, humans often overlooked the balance of nature. Here everything was connected and every action had meaning. He realized that he had much to learn, not only about the aliens but also about the universe itself. For the next few days, Ryan focused on understanding Zytheran culture. He learned about their food, which was more than just nourishment. It was a combination of energy, flavor, and experience. Each meal was carefully prepared to provide mental clarity and physical strength. Ryan found the glowing fruits and liquids strange at first, but he began to appreciate the flavors and sensations. Nira often joined him for meals, asking about Earth and sharing stories of Zythera. She told him about her studies in science, history, and strategy. Ryan discovered that she had a sharp mind and a deep curiosity. She asked questions that challenged his thinking, and he found himself enjoying the conversations more than he expected. One afternoon, Nira took Ryan to the palace library. The room was enormous, filled with floating shelves and glowing books. The knowledge of Zythera stretched across centuries, and Ryan felt both excitement and intimidation. "Here you can learn about our world and our people," Nira said. "I will help you understand what is important. Knowledge is the foundation of trust." They spent hours reading, discussing history, and comparing human and Zytheran civilizations. Ryan was impressed by Nira's depth of understanding. She did not simply memorize facts. She thought critically about their meaning and implications. He began to see why she was respected not only as a princess, but also as a leader among her people. Despite the growing friendship, Ryan could not ignore the fact that he was here under unusual circumstances. He had been chosen for marriage without his full consent. The thought troubled him, but he also realized that Nira was not forcing him. She had said it was a partnership, not a demand. That small difference changed how he viewed the situation. He began to see it as an opportunity to learn, grow, and perhaps even form a genuine bond. One evening, Ryan and Nira took a walk through the city. The streets were alive with Zytherans moving in harmony, their movements graceful and deliberate. Buildings floated above the ground, connected by light bridges. Ryan was amazed at how advanced their technology was, yet how seamlessly it blended with nature. "Do humans have cities like this?" Nira asked, turning to him. Ryan shook his head. "We have cities, but they are not like this. We often destroy nature to build them. Your people seem to live in balance with the environment." Nira nodded. "Balance is important. Without it, we lose our connection to the world. Humans are still learning this." Ryan felt a pang of guilt. He knew she was right. Humans often acted without considering consequences. And yet here he was, part of a plan to unite two worlds. He wondered how much he could contribute to this balance. Over time, Ryan and Nira shared small adventures around the palace. They explored hidden corridors, climbed towers, and even tried flying on energy platforms. Each experience brought them closer. Ryan began to admire Nira's courage and intelligence. She approached challenges with thoughtfulness, never rushing, always considering the impact of her actions. One afternoon, while observing the twin suns from a balcony, Ryan asked Nira, "Do you ever feel lonely being a princess?" She paused, her eyes reflecting the light of the suns. "Sometimes. The duties of a princess are many. People expect much from us, and the decisions we make affect countless lives. But I do not feel alone when I have someone willing to understand and share the journey. That is why your presence matters." Ryan was struck by her words. She did not see him as a guest or a stranger. She saw him as a partner in learning and understanding. It was a new perspective, one that made him feel both nervous and excited. As days passed, Ryan noticed subtle changes in himself. He was learning patience, careful observation, and respect for different ways of life. Nira's influence was not forceful. It was gentle and encouraging. She asked questions that made him think and made him see the world in new ways. One night, a sudden storm erupted over the palace. The winds were strong, and glowing streaks of electricity arced across the sky. The palace security systems activated automatically, and Rian was guided to the inner chambers by Nira. They sat together, watching the storm through large transparent walls. "Zithra's weather is powerful," Nira said. "It reminds us that we are small in the face of nature. Respect and understanding are necessary for survival." Ryan nodded. "I am beginning to understand that. Everything here has meaning and everything is connected." Nira smiled. "Good, that is why you are here. Not just to live, but to learn. To understand our world and your own in ways you never imagined." By the end of the second week, Rian felt more comfortable in the palace and with Nira. He was still unsure about the idea of marriage, but he was beginning to see it as more than a political arrangement. It was a chance to form a connection with someone extraordinary, someone who challenged him and inspired him. He realized that Nira's presence was changing him. He was thinking more clearly, observing more carefully, and respecting differences more deeply. And he could not deny that he was curious about what the future would bring for both of them. As he lay in his chamber that night, Ryan thought about the strange path that had led him here. From a boy dreaming of stars to a human explorer in an alien palace, he had faced uncertainty, fear, and wonder. But with Nira by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges awaited. Tomorrow he would continue learning, exploring, and discovering the mysteries of Zithra. And perhaps, he thought, he would discover more about himself as well. Ryan had been on Zithra for nearly a month. The palace, the gardens, and the glowing towers had become familiar, yet the world beyond was still a mystery. He had grown close to Princess Nira, sharing stories, meals, and small adventures through the palace halls. But comfort could not last forever. One morning, as Rian trained with Nira in the palace courtyard, a sudden alarm sounded. The air vibrated with a low hum, and the floating platforms shivered slightly. Nira's expression became serious. "Rian, come with me," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was urgency behind it. They hurried to the council chamber where the elders were already gathered. Holographic screens projected images of distant territories beyond Zithra. The council members spoke in unison, their voices sharp and commanding. "A rival faction has moved near the northern borders," the eldest elder announced. "They seek to disrupt our peace and claim our resources. Princess Nira, you must act to protect your people. Human Ryan, your presence may provide a unique perspective in strategy and diplomacy." Ryan's heart raced. He had trained for exploration and communication, not battle or political intrigue, but he saw the determination in Nira's eyes. She was not afraid. She would face this threat, and she expected him to stand beside her. "What is the plan?" Ryan asked, trying to steady his voice. Nira pointed to the holographic map. "We need to understand their intentions. We cannot simply confront them without knowledge. We will travel to the northern territories, gather information, and prevent conflict if possible. You will accompany me," Rian nodded. He realized that this was no longer a simple diplomatic mission. It was a test of courage, intelligence, and trust. They left the palace the next day, traveling in a sleek floating vehicle that glided silently over Zithra's glowing terrain. The landscape changed as they moved north. The forest became denser, the light dimmer, and the energy hum of Zithra more pronounced. Ryan marveled at the alien world, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. As they approached the northern borders, they encountered signs of the rival faction. Structures had been built hastily, and unusual energy signals pulsed in the distance. Nira examined them carefully. "They are preparing for something," she said, her voice thoughtful, "but it is unclear what. We must proceed with caution." Ryan nodded. He tried to focus, observing the terrain, the signals, and Nira's reactions. She moved with confidence, scanning every detail, analyzing every possibility. He realized that her title of princess did not define her. Her strength came from her intelligence, her calm, and her ability to think ahead. Over the next few days, they explored the northern territories, avoiding detection while gathering information. They discovered that the rival faction intended to disrupt Zithra's energy supply. If successful, it would destabilize the planet and harm its people. This is serious, Rian said, studying the holographic projections. If they succeed, it could destroy everything you have worked to protect. Nira's eyes narrowed. We cannot let that happen. We must act strategically, not recklessly. Strength alone will not win this conflict. We must use knowledge, patience, and teamwork. Ryan felt a mixture of fear and admiration. He had faced challenges on Earth, but nothing compared to this. Yet he also felt a growing sense of purpose. He was not just a visitor. He was a partner in this mission. One evening, as they rested in a hidden valley, Rian watched Nira as she studied the terrain. Her focus was intense, yet there was a calmness in her movements that reassured him. You are good at this, he said quietly. I mean, you are amazing at strategy and planning. Nira glanced at him and smiled faintly. Experience teaches wisdom. But I also learn from others. Your perspective is different from ours, and it helps me see possibilities I might have missed. Rian felt a warmth in his chest. For the first time, he realized that he was not just learning from her. They were learning from each other. The next day, they encountered their first real challenge. A patrol from the rival faction spotted them near a canyon. Energy beams streaked through the sky, and Ryan ducked instinctively. Nira acted quickly, using a device to create a temporary shield that absorbed the blasts. Follow me, she shouted, leading him through a narrow passage between glowing rock formations. The patrol pursued them, but Nira's knowledge of the terrain allowed them to escape. Once they were safe, Ryan panted heavily. That was close. You saved us, Nira shook her head. We saved ourselves together. You acted quickly when it mattered. That is important. Ryan realized that he was beginning to trust his own instincts. He was not just following Nira blindly. He was contributing. Their partnership was becoming real. As they continued their mission, they discovered a hidden facility where the rival faction was trying to manipulate Zithara's energy fields. The technology was advanced and dangerous. Nira examined it carefully, taking notes and analyzing its function. This could destabilize the planet if activated, she said. We must disable it without causing harm. Ryan nodded. How do we do that? Nira smiled faintly. Together, carefully, step by step. Over the next 2 days, they worked to dismantle the facility's energy controls. Rian followed Nira's instructions, learning to operate alien technology and understand the delicate balance of Zithara's systems. He was amazed by her skill and patience. She explained every step, encouraging him to think critically and act decisively. Finally, they succeeded. The energy fields were stabilized and the rival faction's plan was neutralized. They watched as the facility structures powered down, the glowing energy fading into calm light. We did it, Ryan said, feeling a surge of relief and pride. Nira nodded, her eyes reflecting the fading energy. We did it together. You were brave, Rian. You acted with intelligence and care. I am proud of you. For the first time, Ryan felt a true sense of accomplishment. It was not just about completing a mission. It was about partnership, trust, and shared effort. He realized that he had grown stronger, more confident, and more capable because of Nira and this journey. That night, as they rested under the twin moons, Ryan thought about everything they had faced. The danger, the challenges, and the uncertainty had been intense, but it had also brought them closer. He no longer saw Nira as someone he was forced to marry. He saw her as a friend, a partner, and an equal in facing the challenges of their worlds. Nira, he said softly, thank you, not just for guiding me, but for trusting me. She smiled faintly. We trust each other because we see each other clearly. You are not just a human guest. You are someone willing to understand, to act, and to grow. That is why you matter here. Ryan felt a warmth in his chest. He had expected fear, confusion, and obligation when he arrived on Zithara. Instead, he had found purpose, respect, and the beginning of a bond that went beyond duty. The next morning, they returned to the palace, weary but triumphant. The Council of Elders welcomed them, impressed by their success and the careful way they had handled the situation. Ryan was praised not only for his courage, but also for his intelligence and judgment. During the celebrations, Ryan noticed how Nira interacted with her people. She listened attentively, spoke calmly, and offered guidance with thoughtfulness. He realized that her strength was not just in knowledge, but in her ability to inspire trust and cooperation. That evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Rian felt a deep sense of admiration. Nira, I understand now why your people respect you so much. You are incredible. Nira glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the glowing plants around them. And you are learning to see the world in new ways. That is what matters. Courage, intelligence, and willingness to learn can achieve much more than strength alone. Ryan nodded. He knew that the journey ahead would not be easy. There would be more challenges, more dangers, and more lessons to learn. But he also knew that with Nira by his side, he was ready to face them. As he lay in his chamber that night, Ryan reflected on the past few days. The danger they had faced, the challenges they had overcome, and the trust they had built were all part of a larger journey. He realized that his time on Zythera was not just about diplomacy or survival. It was about growth, understanding, and forming connections that could change both his world and hers. For the first time, Ryan felt that he belonged not just as a visitor, but as someone who could contribute, protect, and learn. And he knew that the next part of his journey would test him even further, pushing him to understand not only Zythera but also himself. After returning from the northern territories, Ryan felt a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. The mission had tested his courage, intelligence, and patience. Yet more importantly, it had changed how he viewed Zythera, its people, and Princess Nira. She had not only guided him but also inspired him to see the world in ways he had never imagined. The palace felt different now. Every hallway, garden, and chamber seemed to hold new meaning. Ryan no longer wandered blindly, struggling to adapt. He moved with more confidence, understanding the flow of the palace and the subtle ways its people communicated. Nira noticed the change and smiled quietly to herself. "You are improving," she said one morning as they walked through the Garden of Knowledge. "Not just in skill, but in understanding. You see more clearly now." Ryan glanced at her, feeling a warmth of appreciation. "I am learning from you. You make it easier to understand things I would not notice on my own." Nira's eyes softened. "That is why we work together. A partnership is not about one person teaching another. It is about learning from each other." The next few days were filled with a mix of lessons, exploration, and observation. Nira introduced Ryan to palace rituals he had not yet experienced. They observed ceremonies of energy alignment, where Zytherans focused their minds and bodies to maintain harmony with the planet. Ryan watched in awe as the participants moved with precise grace, their gestures reflecting years of training and dedication. "You must try," Nira said gently. "It will help you understand how our people think and act." Ryan followed her instructions carefully. At first, the movements felt unnatural, but Nira guided him patiently. Her hands adjusted his posture, her voice offered encouragement, and her presence made the challenge less intimidating. By the end, Ryan felt a sense of calm he had never experienced before. He realized that these rituals were not just tradition, they were a way to connect with oneself and the world. In the evenings, they often shared meals in quiet corners of the palace. Nira was curious about Earth, and Ryan enjoyed explaining human customs, food, and stories. He found that the more he spoke, the more she listened, not passively but actively. She asked questions, sometimes simple, sometimes profound, that made him reflect on his own life and choices. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace, Nira turned to him. "Ryan, what do you hope for in the future?" Ryan paused, thinking carefully. "I want to explore, to learn, and to understand. But now I also want to help your people, and maybe even build something together that connects our worlds." Nira nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting the soft light. "That is wise. Understanding and care are more powerful than strength alone. You are learning the ways of Zythera well," Ryan smiled, "and I am learning from you." Their bond grew stronger each day. They explored the palace grounds together, discovering hidden libraries, secret gardens, and observation decks that overlooked the planet. They shared stories of childhood, dreams, and fears. Ryan discovered that Nira, despite her responsibilities, had moments of playfulness and curiosity that reminded him of his own youth on Earth. One afternoon, Nira invited Ryan to the Hall of Stars, a vast observatory with transparent walls that revealed the night sky. Planets, moons, and distant suns shimmered above them, casting reflections in the polished floor. "Look at the universe, Ryan," Nira said softly. "It is vast and we are small, yet even the smallest actions can create change. That is why our choices matter." Ryan stood beside her, absorbing the view. "I have never felt so connected to something larger than myself." It is way humbling, Nira placed a hand gently on his shoulder. That is why you must be thoughtful in your actions. Power is not in control alone, but in responsibility and understanding. Ryan nodded. He realized that he was not just learning about Zethra, but also about himself. He was becoming more patient, more aware, and more capable of understanding perspectives beyond his own. The days passed peacefully until a new challenge arose. A delegation from a neighboring planet arrived at the palace, requesting an audience with Princess Nira. They were curious about the recent success against the rival faction and wanted to establish their own connections with Zithra. Rian observed as Nira prepared for the meeting. She reviewed data, practiced gestures of respect, and considered the cultural nuances of the visiting species. He realized that diplomacy was as much about understanding and patience as it was about words and agreements. During the meeting, Rian watched Nira interact with the delegates. She listened carefully, asked insightful questions, and responded with clarity and thoughtfulness. Her presence commanded respect not through authority alone, but through intelligence and empathy. Ryan felt proud to stand beside her, realizing how much he had learned from their experiences together. After the delegates left, Nira and Rian walked through the palace gardens. The soft hum of energy from the plants filled the air, creating a peaceful atmosphere. "You handled that well," Rian said. "I could see their respect for you. It is not just your title, it is who you are." Nira smiled faintly. "Thank you. But diplomacy is not a solo effort. It requires listening, understanding, and sometimes the courage to admit when we do not have all the answers." Ryan reflected on her words. It was true. He had seen her face danger, analyze situations, and make decisions carefully. Yet she had also welcomed his input, showing that leadership was strengthened by partnership. That evening, as they prepared for rest, Nira invited Ryan to accompany her to the meditation hall, a quiet place where Zitherans reflected on their actions and choices. "Rian, would you like to try meditation with me?" she asked. He hesitated briefly, then nodded. "Yes, I want to understand your ways fully." They sat side by side, focusing on their breath and the energy around them. At first, Rian's mind wandered, thinking about his responsibilities and the events of the past weeks. But Nira's calm presence guided him back to the moment. He began to feel a deep sense of peace, understanding the connection between thought, action, and intention. When they finished, Rian felt refreshed, more centered, and more aware of the world around him. He looked at Nira with admiration. "I did not expect to feel this way." "It is enlightening," Nira nodded. "It takes time and patience, but understanding begins with awareness. That is why you are learning so quickly." As the days went by, Ryan and Nira continued to grow closer. They shared laughter, ideas, and quiet moments of reflection. Rian noticed that he no longer thought of their arrangement as a forced duty. Instead, he began to see the potential for a genuine bond built on respect, trust, and shared experiences. One afternoon, Nira took Rian to a remote garden filled with rare plants that glowed in every color of the spectrum. The beauty of the place was breathtaking, and Rian felt a sense of wonder he had not felt since arriving on Zithra. "These plants are rare and delicate," Nira explained. "They remind us that even the smallest things are important. Care and attention can nurture growth." Ryan watched her carefully tend to the plants, adjusting their positions and examining their leaves. He realized that her strength was not only in leadership and intelligence, but also in her compassion and care for life in all its forms. "You are remarkable, Nira," Rian said softly. "You see everything with thought and care. I have never met anyone like you." Nira looked at him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the plants. "And you are learning to see the world differently, Rian. That is why you matter. Together we can face challenges and help both our worlds." Ryan felt a surge of warmth and confidence. He understood now that their bond was no longer just about diplomacy or duty. It was about partnership, mutual respect, and shared growth. As the twin moons rose over Zithra that night, Ryan reflected on how much he had changed. The initial fear and confusion had been replaced by understanding, admiration, and trust. He had learned about Nira, her people and their world, but he had also learned about himself. He was capable of courage, patience, and connection beyond what he had imagined, and he knew that the journey was far from over. The universe was vast, full of challenges, discoveries, and opportunities, but with Nira by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. knowing that they would grow stronger together. The palace of Zithera glowed softly under the light of the twin suns. After weeks of learning, exploring, and facing dangers, Rian felt that he had finally found his place in this alien world. His partnership with Princess Nira had grown stronger each day. They had faced challenges together, learned from each other, and built trust and respect that went beyond titles or duty. The Council of Elders had requested a formal ceremony to mark Rian's bond with Nira. Though he had initially felt fear and hesitation, Rian now approached the event with a sense of calm and purpose. This was not merely a marriage, as outsiders might call it. It was a partnership of equals, a union of understanding, trust, and shared responsibility. In the days leading to the ceremony, the palace was filled with preparations. Zitherans moved gracefully through the halls, arranging decorations, energy lights, and ceremonial symbols. Rian helped where he could, guided by Nira's careful instructions. Every detail mattered, from the placement of glowing crystals to the harmony of the energy fields that filled the palace. "You are nervous," Nira said one morning. Observing him as he adjusted the ceremonial lights, Rian paused and nodded. "I am. But it is not fear of the ceremony itself, it is..." Realizing how much this matters, for both your people and mine, Nira smiled, her eyes reflecting warmth and understanding. "That is why you are the right partner. You care, you think, you act with awareness. That is what makes this bond meaningful." The ceremony day arrived. The palace was filled with Zitherans from every corner of the planet, as well as a few humans who had accompanied Rian on his journey. The air was calm yet vibrant with energy. Floating lights shimmered in patterns above the crowd, casting colors across the palace halls. Rian stood beside Nira as the elders approached, their presence radiating authority and wisdom. The ceremony began with a traditional greeting, where he extended his hands in the manner of Zitheran respect, and Nira mirrored him. The crowd watched silently, impressed by his careful attention to the ritual. The elders spoke in unison, their voices blending into a single harmonious tone. They described the significance of the union. It was a partnership not only between two individuals, but also between worlds. It symbolized understanding, respect, and the hope for lasting peace between humans and Zitherans. When it was time for Rian and Nira to speak, he found his voice steady. "I have learned much since arriving on Zithera. I have learned about your people, your world, and the ways you see and respect life. I promise to continue learning, to act with care, and to stand beside Princess Nira in all that we face together." Nira's eyes glimmered with emotion. She replied, "And I promise to guide, support, and trust you as my partner. Together we will honor our people, our worlds, and the choices we make." The elders nodded in approval, and a soft hum of energy filled the palace, signifying their blessing. The crowd erupted in quiet applause, not loud and chaotic, but harmonious, resonating with respect and celebration. Rian felt a sense of calm joy. He was not just accepted, he was trusted and valued. After the ceremony, the palace held a celebration. Music and light filled the halls. Rian walked beside Nira, marveling at how smoothly he moved in a world that had once been so strange to him. He had learned to understand Zitheran culture, navigate its challenges, and appreciate its beauty. He realized that this journey had changed him profoundly. As the celebration continued, Nira guided Rian to the balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The glowing plants stretched into the distance, reflecting the light of the twin moons. "Do you remember when you first arrived?" Nira asked softly. "You were unsure, fearful, and overwhelmed." Rian nodded. "I remember. I thought I would never understand this world, never fit in, and never be able to face the challenges. But I was wrong. You helped me see differently." Nira's hand gently touched his. "And you helped me too. You brought a human perspective, courage, and a willingness to learn. That is why we are partners. That is why this bond matters." Rian felt a warmth spread through him. He had expected duty, obligation, and perhaps uncertainty when he arrived. Instead, he had found friendship, respect, and the beginning of a life shared with someone extraordinary. Over the next days, Rian continued to assist Nira with her responsibilities. They worked together to strengthen diplomatic ties with neighboring planets, improve palace systems, and ensure the safety and prosperity of Zithera. He discovered that partnership was not only about big challenges but also about daily support, shared decisions, and understanding the needs of others. Nira often included Rian in her discussions with advisors and elders. His insights, drawn from human experiences and Earth's history, offered new perspectives that impressed the council. Ryan realized that even small contributions could have meaningful impact. One evening, as they walked through a quiet corridor lined with glowing plants, Ryan spoke. "I never imagined I would feel so at home here. I thought I was just visiting, just observing. But now I feel connected, not only to you but to your people, to this planet." Nira glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the soft lights. "That is what understanding brings. When we see and respect one another, we create connection. That is how we build something lasting." Ryan smiled. "I am grateful for that, for everything you have taught me, for trusting me. And I am grateful for your courage, your curiosity, and your willingness to learn," Nira replied. "Together we can face whatever challenges come next." In the weeks that followed, humans and Zitherans began collaborating more closely. Ryan assisted in sharing knowledge of Earth's science and culture, while learning more of Zithra's advanced technology and wisdom. The partnership between Rian and Nira became a symbol of hope and cooperation. Their story inspired others to see the possibilities that came from understanding, respect, and trust. One afternoon, as they walked through the palace gardens, Rian turned to Nira. "Do you think our worlds can truly connect?" Nira smiled softly. "Yes, it will take time, patience, and effort. But partnerships like ours show that it is possible. We have already taken the first steps." Ryan nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. He had arrived on Zithra unsure, hesitant, and even fearful. Now he felt confident, capable, and inspired. He was not just a visitor. He was a partner in shaping the future. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows across the glowing gardens, Rian and Nira stood side by side, looking toward the horizon. Their journey had begun with uncertainty and obligation, but it had grown into understanding, trust, and a meaningful partnership. "I never thought I could feel this way," Ryan admitted. "Not just about the mission, but about everything. About connection, responsibility, and learning from someone like you." Nira placed a hand gently on his. "That is the gift of partnership. When we face challenges together, learn from each other, and respect one another, we create something stronger than either of us alone." Ryan took a deep breath, feeling the truth in her words. He realized that this was only the beginning. Their bond, their partnership, and the connection between their worlds would continue to grow. The future was uncertain, but he knew one thing for certain. With Nira by his side, he was ready to face it, to explore and to build a life full of discovery and understanding. That night, as he looked out at the glowing landscape of Zithra, Ryan felt a profound sense of peace. He had come to this alien world expecting duty and obligation, but he had found friendship, respect, and a partnership that promised hope for the future. He knew challenges would come, but he also knew that together they could overcome anything. The stars above shone brightly, reflecting the glow of Zithra's twin moons. Ryan smiled, feeling a sense of connection to both his home on Earth and his new home on this distant planet. He had started as a visitor, uncertain and cautious. Now he was a partner, a friend, and a symbol of unity between worlds. With Nira by his side, he was ready to embrace whatever the universe held, knowing that together they could create a future filled with understanding, courage, and hope. And so, a new chapter began, one of partnership, discovery, and the enduring bond between human and Zithran, between two worlds that had found connection through trust, respect, and shared experience.